Yeah. Week three. Week three of a series that we are calling Radical Love. The idea has been that we've been shown radical love by Christ, and so therefore we know what love is, and ultimately we should treat people with that same kind of love. But here's the problem. We don't do that. Or when we do it because we're going to get something out of it. And we never actually love people, for the most part, because they're people. We love people because we're getting something out of it. Right? There's something that we're getting. You see, most good stories have a bad guy. Right? You think of all the Marvel movies, you think of all the comic books and stuff. Every good story has a bad guy. You see, from all the movies, if the movie doesn't have a bad guy, it's kind of like that's a lame story, right? And if we can identify who the bad guy is, then we can enjoy the movie more. You see, most people like Batman and Joker or something, right? There's a good guy and a bad guy. In the life of Jesus, among multiple villains, there's one villain that kind of reigns supreme in my mind when I think of the life of Jesus and villains. All right? When we think about it, you think there was Satan, there was the Pharisees, there was the Sadducees, there was his own people, the Jews. But when I think of villains, and I think of who's the ultimate bad guy to Jesus, I think of a guy named Judas Iscariot. See, Judas, if you don't know, Judas, he was a betrayer. He's the guy that sold out Jesus. He's the guy who said, I like Jesus for what I can get out of it. And ultimately, he's the one who turned his back on the one that loved him. You see, I was thinking about this past week, is that Judas started the chain reaction of what put Christ on the cross. Right. He ultimately led to the torture and murder of Jesus. Him alone. When you think about the story of Judas, and if you've heard it, he's the one that comes and tells the Roman soldiers, he comes into the Garden of Gethsemane and says, look, the one that I kiss is the guy you need to arrest. I remember when I said, how do you greet your friends? It was not uncommon to walk up to your friend, how are you, and kiss him on the cheek or the forehead. And so Judas comes up and said, hey, Jesus, how you doing? And kisses him. That doesn't mean weirdos. Okay? That was their way of saying hi. But that was also the sign to the Roman guards, hey, the one that I kiss is the one you need to arrest. And so there's more to this story. There's more to this account in the Bible than just a dude that had issues. Okay? And a guy that betrayed others. Now there's more to this. So we're going to unpack what this looks like. And you guys have in your notes scripture. We're going to kind of jump into scripture. We're going to skip a couple of scriptures and then jump in a little later time. So here we go. Matthew says this, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, surely you don't mean me, Rabbi. Jesus answered, you have said so. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, take, eat, this is my body. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you. This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. So think about this, okay? They're sitting, they're having dinner, and Jesus calls out Judas straight up in front of everybody. Have you ever been called out? Have you ever been straight up told you made a mistake?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at that stain on your shirt. Oh, it looks hideous, right? Or as guys, it's like, hey, man, they wait until you get them in the class, and you're freaking start your speech, and they go, "Hey, dude, your zipper's down." Right? And most guys go, "What?" Right? Okay? It's embarrassing. It's kind of to be put on the spot in public is really kind of humiliating. And so here Jesus is. He's doing one of those awkward call-outs of all time. He looks directly at Judas and he just drops the bomb. Drops the bomb. He doesn't beat on the bush. He doesn't say, "Hey, what do you think would be the best?" He looks at him and says, "Absolutely, you are the one." Think about it though. You're having dinner. They drop a bomb like that. The air gets sucked out of the room. All of a sudden, the disciples they've been dedicated, they've been devoted, and now Jesus is suggesting that one of them is a traitor. And here's the thing. It wasn't that, hey, there's a traitor out in the city. It's like there's a traitor among you. That's a little bit deeper. Because here's the truth and the reality is this, is that the traitor was sitting at the table. The traitor was sitting at the table. It takes place, this exchange between Judas and Jesus takes place in what's called the Last Supper. Right? And we know the Last Supper to be the Last Supper that Jesus has with his disciples and things. And I'm sure you've seen the picture, right? It's in your handout. It's on the screen. Right? You've seen this picture before, the Leonardo da Vinci picture where he's painting the Last Supper with Jesus and his disciples. And he does something that most artists of the time did not do. Okay? If you look at this picture on the screen or in your handout, you see a lot of emotion and a lot of drama going on in this one picture, right? You see, when a lot of people of the time drew Jesus, they had like a halo over his head, and he was all, kind, polite, loving, gentle. It was a holy scene. But Da Vinci captures a complete different emotions across the table. If you look at this picture, you can start to see that Jesus tells them, "I'm going to die." Jesus tells the people at the table, "Peter, you will deny me." He goes on to say, "Judas, you are going to turn me in." Everybody kind of freaks out. That's way too much information. And you look at this, you see the guys that have worked together, they've traveled together, they've been together, and for 3 years they've slept in the same campsite, the same tent. For 3 years, they gave up their jobs for this. And here they are at the table. You see part of them are pointing fingers and making accusations. You have others who are saying, "Oh, it can't be me. I wouldn't do this." Then you have like Judas kind of sitting there surrounded by friends going, "Did he just say what I think he just said?" Like, and you get this argumentative and this defensive and this shock and oh my goodness and all of this in one picture. That's the moment Da Vinci captures here. The fear, the anger. It's a very chaotic dinner. But I want you guys to see this in the story, and I think we miss this quite often when we read it because we focus in on Judas. But see, this is not just meatloaf and potatoes, okay? This is a very important meal. It's at the time of the Passover meal, which the Passover was a resemblance of when the angel of death in Egypt passed over the Jewish homes and didn't kill the firstborn sons, right? And they celebrate this all the time, every year. And at the Passover, Jesus is showing himself to be that perfect lamb. That bread that's broken for you. It was not bread like we know it. It was flat bread. It was had no yeast in it. It was pure bread. And he broke that and gave it to his disciples. "This is me. Take, eat it." Then he takes the wine. I won't go into it, but there are several cups that happen at the dinner. He takes a specific cup at the dinner, and he uses this one cup and raises it up and says, "Listen, this is the blood that we poured out for you as the perfect lamb." And so what they're celebrating is the Passover, and what they're looking at is the perfect lamb for the Passover. And so here we are. As we look at this, we start to see that after Jesus makes these statements, I'm going to die. Peter, you're going to deny me. Judas, you're going to sell me out. I want you guys to notice something. That the meal still carries on. The meal still carries on. See, Jesus drops the bomb, right? Calls his friends out, and then still continues to eat with them. He pours the wine and breaks the bread with them. That is a very significant moment. In fact, churches all across the country I don't say redo, but reenact that same meal when we have with the Lord's Supper. When you come forward and get that bread and that wine, you're redoing the same picture. See, for you and I, there are times when you and I are going to have to love regardless. You and I are going to have to love regardless. We can be obsessed with the drama of the dinner. We can start focusing in on who Judas is and how could he do this. And we can look at the painting and go, man, there's a lot of people. And you can even start looking at the painting and going, well, who's that one sitting next to Jesus? Is that a woman? Is that a man? And get focused in and forget that even after dropping this bomb, Jesus still had dinner with them. He still loved them regardless. What does Jesus do when he's confronted with direct opposition from a friend? He stays there with them. He stays there with them. And this really gets us to think about us. What do we do when people confront us? What do we do when people look at us and start giving us labels or start pointing their fingers or starts laughing and start calling us names, starts making fun of us, starts doing all this stuff? What do we do? I mean, we love people that we like, right? I mean, I love my kids as long as they do what I ask them to do. That's not real love, by the way. That's conditional. We should love them no matter what, right? We can love the people we like. We can strive to like the people that we really don't like. But what happens when someone straight up sins against us? What do we do? What happens when they turn their backs on us? What happens when they spread a lie about us? What do we do when they hurt us, when they turn their friends against us? What happens then? How do we respond? Let's see how Jesus responds. Look at John chapter 13. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, wrapped himself with a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you don't realize what I'm doing now, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then, Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. Jesus answered, those who have had a bath don't need only to wash their feet, for the whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes, returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet. You also should wash one another's feet. I've set an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. All right. I want you guys to catch something here. Notice this. Think about this. Jesus knew, but still washed Judas's feet. Jesus knew, but Judas still ain't. That's a powerful thought. Jesus knew Judas was going to do this. And as he was washing the disciples' feet, he came to Judas and washed Judas's feet. When it came time to break bread, to participate in the Lord's Supper, to say that I've poured my blood out for you for the forgiveness of sins, he knew that Judas was going to do what he was going to do, and he still offered him the bread and the wine. He knew, but he still cared for Judas. Jesus came into this dinner knowing this was going to happen. Jesus knew that Judas's action would drive nails through his feet. And he still poured water on Judas's feet. Judas turned his back, but Jesus still had open arms. To put it simply, he simply loved more. He simply loved more. Because when you think about it, this is the overwhelming, inconceivable, radical love of Jesus on display. This is the radical love of Jesus. You ask, how do I live like Jesus? Here's how you live like Jesus. I imagine most people would have thrown Judas down the stairs. Or they would have refused to serve him dinner. Not Jesus. He still invited Judas to be a part. We ought to be thankful that Judas ate. We'll be thankful that Judas ate. Why? Why should we care if Judas was there or not? Because in reality, it gives us hope. It gives us hope. Because here's the truth. Here's the hard reality. Is that we all have some Judas within us. There's a tendency for every single one of us in this room to rebel, to betray God's plan for us. There's times we can be unloving, we can be ungrateful, we can be unfaithful to Jesus. But even in those moments, that doesn't stop him from loving us. There was room at the table for Judas, which means there's room at the table for you and I, too. Even when you're at your worst, Jesus still pulls out a chair and invites you to sit and grab a plate that he's prepared for you. You see, what do you do to those people that are mean to you, that are hateful to you, that are rude to you? What do you do to your parents? What do you do to your teachers? What do you do to your coworkers or your bosses? What do you do to your teammates? What do you do when you're being made fun of, and you're being teased, and you're being laughed at? Because truth is this is radical love. This is radical love. So, here's what we're going to do. Pete is going to continue to make sure this actually plays like it's supposed to. And I'm going to take this empty chair. And I'm going to offer you the moment that maybe in this room, there's somebody that you should show this radical love to. Maybe there's somebody in here that you should love like Jesus loved. Maybe there's someone here that you really could care less if they're here or not. Maybe we can do the same thing Jesus did. Now look at them and go, oh my gosh, they're here again. Oh my gosh, they're so annoying. In fact, look at the little kids.